Halito! Bokok Chamali here, and you are watching the Bokok Chamali YouTube channel. Specifically, you are watching my first ever long form video on this channel. And I decided to make this video to celebrate hitting the 50 subscriber mark, so insert applause here. I'd like to give a big yakoki to everybody who's subscribed so far. And if you are new to the channel and just checking me out, thank you for stopping by. Feel free to leave any remarks or feedback or questions or ideas or concerns you have in the comments. So for those of you who have been following my channel, most of my content is art, at least right now. And this video is also art. Specifically, it is a speed draw. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing while the footage plays of me drawing. So the sketchbook in which I'm drawing, and more accurately it should be called an art book, but I'll get into that later. I actually made it by hand a few months ago, and you probably heard me talk about it, so I won't sit here and hash it all out again. But basically, it's a book I made of watercolor paper in which each page already has a mark or a line or some kind of element on it to act as inspiration. So there's not actually a single blank page in this art book. And on the page that you see right now, well, you see one page that has like a big blue and purple and yellow kind of abstract doodle, and then the page on which I'm drawing has a circular cutout that reveals some color from the page behind it. And I wondered for a while what I was going to draw on that page, and then when I got the notification that I had hit 50 subscribers, I thought, okay, I'm gonna celebrate by making a long form YouTube video, and whatever it is I draw on this page with the cutout, that will be what I make the video about. And you know, the circle and the placement of the circle in the page just really made me think of the sun, and then the sun at some point made me think of a scarab beetle, because in Egyptian mythology, scarab beetles and the sun are closely associated. So I decided to draw a scarab beetle holding the sun and having these kind of like ethereal, almost angelic wings. And right now in the video, you can see that I'm going over my pencil sketch with ink. Specifically, I'm using the Sakura Micron pen. It gives you a really good pigmented line, and the pigment itself is light fast and waterproof, so it shouldn't fade in the sun for a long time. And if I were to go over the ink with a water-based medium like watercolor, the ink would not bleed or blur or anything like that. It would stay put. And one of my favorite things to do is actually put down an ink design and then go over it with some watercolor. So you can imagine that I use the Micron pens fairly frequently in my work. So I said earlier that I kind of want to draw a distinction between an art book and a sketchbook. I've been seeing people talk about this on YouTube and in other social media spaces, and I think it's a really valuable conversation. Because one of the biggest hurdles for artists, especially young and or inexperienced artists, is that you go online, you check your various social media feeds where you're following other artists, and you see their, quote, sketchbooks, and they are filled with the most polished, professional, perfectly crafted drawings and paintings, and you're like, holy shit, this is their sketchbook? This looks like a professional portfolio. And that's because for a lot of these creators, they aren't sketchbooks, they are professional portfolios, or more accurately, they're art books. Because to me, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks this, a sketchbook is filled with sketches. It's filled with experiments, it's filled with attempts at mastering techniques, it's filled with failures, it's filled with messy, sloppy, rough around the edges drawings and paintings. A sketchbook is a place to sketch and try and fail and learn and try again, and sometimes be repetitive and sometimes be ugly, and all of that is part of the process. So when I say ugly or when I say fail, I actually don't want you or anyone else to attach a negative connotation to those words. That is how we learn. It's part of the process. It's how we gather information. And also, ugly is a relative term anyway. An art book, as opposed to sketchbook, however, that is a book where pretty much every drawing or painting or illustration in it has been planned out, probably isn't an experiment, but is instead a deliberate effort with a finished goal in mind. And often art books are meant to showcase your work, while sketchbooks are places to learn how to do the work in the first place. So, even though I've called this a sketchbook casually in other videos without thinking about it, more accurately, it's an art book, because every drawing in this art book so far has been pretty intentional and deliberate and not a place where I've been experimenting or trying to learn something new. So in the case of this drawing, I actually used my sketchbook along with the back of an envelope laying around my desk to practice drawing a scarab beetle, because I'm fairly comfortable with drawing bugs and insects, but I hadn't drawn a scarab beetle before, and I wanted to be confident in drawing it in this art book, especially using, ink. Plus, like, this art book is honestly, I'm about to get sappy. It's like so special to me. It's one of the coolest things I've made. It's really symbolic to me on a personal level of how far I've come, not even as an artist, but more so as a person. I'll save this deeper convo for another video, but I made a lot of big personal changes over the past couple years, last year in particular, and kicked some bad habits and got away from some behaviors and lifestyle choices that were not serving me anymore. And I would not have been able to have the energy or the motivation or the attention span or even the desire to do something like make my own book and then make cool drawings in it regularly and then make videos of those drawings and upload them to YouTube. I would not have been able to do any of those things if I hadn't been able to make some of the changes I made. Which, to very quickly clarify, I made those changes myself. Oh, that's my phone. But I could not have made those changes without the support I have from my loved ones. None of us are islands. None of us exist in a vacuum. I feel like every time I mention a personal change, I really want to drive home the fact that I did not do it alone. So anyway, I'm getting way off topic. Man, my phone is just dinging left and right, and I don't feel like going back and editing that out. That is my friend Andrew, who was not very impressed by what he thought was sarcasm in my previous message. I was being serious, though. Data security is hot. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So, I wanted to draw a scarab beetle holding the sun, with the circular cutout in this page being the sun. I wanted the scarab beetle to be black line art with maybe some embellishments, and I wanted to feel comfortable about drawing it, so I practiced it a few times, and then once I felt good, I went ahead and started sketching it out. And then I started inking over it with the micron pens, and then towards the end of the video, you'll see the other embellishments I add. But the scarab beetle in Egyptian mythology is associated with the sun. If I understand it correctly, Egyptian peoples at that time thought that the sun came from nothing and kind of thought that every sunrise was miraculous. And because scarab beetles lay their eggs inside the dung balls they roll around, and then the eggs hatch and the larvae work their way from the inside to the outside, it does kind of look like these larvae also came from nothing. So both the scarab beetle and its origin and the sun and its respective origin, since these things were thought to kind of like spontaneously originate from nothing in this miraculous way, they were linked together symbolically. So you'll see art and various like depictions of the scarab beetle with the sun or holding the sun. So that is part of the mythology associated with the scarab beetle and the sun. And if you know more about it, or if you have any corrections or anything, please drop a line in the comments, because I love mythology and I love learning about it. But yeah, I love drawing bugs and insects, particularly the quote pretty bugs like butterflies and moths, but also beetles can be really pretty. I've been wanting to learn how to paint or depict iridescence. To me, that seems really challenging to try to make on like a 2D surface. And there's some really gorgeous beetles out there whose shells are iridescent and they kind of look like an oil slick. Like you can see the colors shift and morph as the light hits the surface at like different angles. So that might be something I try more in the future. Anyway, I referred to this page as the glory hole page because of that circular cutout. So there is another side, obviously, and when you flip this scarab beetle page over, the circular cutout will instead reveal the blue and purple and yellow of this doodle that you see. And I'm not sure what I'm going to draw on the page that will kind of work with that view through the cutout. So if you have any ideas, give me a holler. Part of me wants to do something really simple and kind of thoughtless, like turn the page over and then just sort of like doodle around the circle and let it be very abstract and very free-flowing and not think about it too hard. But we shall see. These long-form videos, I tell you, they take a while. I'm having a good time with it, but I can see how it would be challenging to do like even one a week kind of feels like a lot. So this scarab beetle drawing, for the purposes of not having like 2 hours of footage, I used double time on the more interesting parts of the drawing. So like right now as I'm inking it, and then towards the beginning when I was sketching it with pencil, that is depicted in double time. And then here in a second I'll start cross hatching, and that gets really repetitive, so that is actually at times 20 speed, because it's literally me drawing one straight line, two straight line, three straight lines over and over again until I get the desired effect. I love hatching and cross hatching, and it's a technique that I want to explore more and more, so get ready to see more of it in future videos of my illustrations and of my sketches and stuff. Like, you can take a single color or a single tool, and with some good line work and some decent cross hatching, you can achieve so much. And yeah, here we go. So I've got the art book turned horizontally so that I can get a better angle for drawing those straight lines across the beetle here. And I believe I do one pass horizontally and then one pass vertically, and then I go back and kind of like add some diagonal lines here and there to help achieve depth and texture. And I don't know if this will show up on the video itself, but my pen was starting to run out of ink, and it resulted in basically lines where the first part of the line starts out really thick and then it gets very light as the line gets longer. And at first it kind of got on my nerves, and then I just ran with it and was like, what the hell, who cares? It's just going to add to the texture, it's going to be fine. And now looking at it, it almost looks like intentional. And then here at this part, I'm adding those embellishments I mentioned. So I'm just going with some gold paint pen and touching up the wings. And I'm also going to add a little border of golden dots around the sun. And then up at the very top of the page is a symbol that represents the sun. It's that circle with the dot in the middle. And now we've reached the end. So once again, Yakoki, and I can't wait to see you for the next video. Bye.